I am ready to rock.
Welcome to episode 11 of the Jibs Podcast. I am here with Nicholas Kristock, the founder of Fleece Thank You.
It's just about getting up and doing it and finding the time, finding the people and making it happen.
You take control and you say, okay, this needs to be done, and you do it.
And you're never ready to start a business. You either do it or you don't.
Welcome to the Jibs Podcast, showcasing Detroit's movers and shakers, bringing you stories that reveal the gusto and grit that's long defined the city and its people. Together, we'll uncover the history and direction of the Motor City, one voice at a time. This is the Jibs Podcast with Jibran Ahmed.
How are you today, Nick?
Great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for you to be on. Can you kind of explain what Fleece Thank You is?
Absolutely can. So Fleece Thank You is the response to a problem that we learned about back in about 2014, 2015. And that was that every single day, children go into the hospital for some kind of hospital treatment, and they stay, at least a night, sometimes a couple days or a couple weeks. And they're walked into this hospital room, and there's just this plain white room with plain white sheets. And we're asking this 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old to win a battle against some kind of illness, and they already feel defeated just by walking into the room. And that's not good enough. In addition to that, I was doing a lot of work in pediatric healthcare prior to Fleece Thank You, and I was getting to know a lot of kids going through treatments and their families, and I kept hearing the same story over and over, and it was, I've been in the hospital for 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 weeks, and my friends, they stopped calling, they stopped visiting, and they stopped texting, and I just really feel like I'm alone in here. And man, not only is it heartbreaking to see the state of the hospital room being so dull and pale, but now you have these kids who really don't believe that they have support for their battle. So we knew we needed to do something to change that. So we decided, let's provide them a colorful fleece blanket. Let's make sure that when they start their treatment, there will be a colorful fleece blanket waiting for them on their bed. And that's something that brightens up the room, and it is armor for the battle ahead for them. Even cooler than that, every blanket that we deliver has a video message attached to it from the person that made it to the child that receives it. That child can then watch that message and send a message back to the blanket maker, bringing the whole connection full circle. And we try to do that 30,000 times a year in the state of Michigan alone, because that's the number of kids in just the state of Michigan that enter the hospital every single year for some kind of inpatient treatment.
Right. And how did you get to the point where you said, I want to start this organization, and how did you become passionate about the subject?
I think the sense of urgency came from realizing how simple of an idea this was and being so shocked that it just wasn't a thing. All right, and that's really what it was. It was, man, I can't believe this isn't a thing. Like, this should have been a thing yesterday. This should have been a thing a decade ago. Right. And the fact that it's not a thing right now, it's got to be a thing. And it's got to be a thing as soon as possible, because there are kids that go in for treatments and they're greeted by that plain white room. So until we change that permanently, we're going to keep grinding. But the urgency was just created by kind of the disbelief that, holy smokes, it's not good enough. And these kids feel alone. And this should have been a thing a long time ago. So we need to hustle.
Was there a moment in your life or an anecdote that you have where you realized that you need to start this organization?
The work I was doing in pediatric healthcare, got me introduced to a lot of cool families and kids that were going through some pretty tough times. And, one in particular that I usually like to reference is a young girl named Sophie. And she was 4 years old at the time I met her, battling neuroblastoma. And so for anyone who doesn't know what neuroblastoma is, essentially Sophie had cancer up and down her entire spinal column. So born with it pretty much from birth, was diagnosed with this. And all she had known from 1 to 4 was this life of hospital treatments, in and out, right? She's either in the hospital or she's at home feeling nauseous from those hospital treatments she was just in. Mm-hmm. And I look back at what I was doing from 1 to 4, and it certainly wasn't that, and it was, I know I started playing soccer at 4. I started playing hockey at 4. I was probably in other extracurricular activities. I was making friends. And for no fault of her own, she was robbed of that childhood. And every day when I would see Sophie, she would always be super happy, right? Super happy, but she always talked about how scared she was of that hospital room. So that put it on my heart to really want to do something for that group of kids. And then probably what gave me the idea for the message was I was working for Make-A-Wish Australia, and so I was on the wish granting team there. So I was sitting in the kitchen of a young girl named Chloe. So Chloe was 16 at the time, and it was myself and another wish granter and Chloe and her mom. And Chloe was talking us through kind of her treatment journey. And, one of the things that she said was, I thought I had a lot of friends before I went in for treatment. And you'd be amazed at how many didn't visit or how many just went back to their life after the first visit or the first message.
Right.
And that rocked me. That rocked me hard. I remember, I could take myself back to that room and thinking, this girl is so strong, and if she starts crying right now, I am gonna start bawling my eyes out.
Right.
She was composed. She was calm, and she just told us the story, and so her strength inspired me to say, we can do something to help the Sophies and the Chloes of the world.
How long ago did you start Fleece Thank You?
We started Fleece Thank You in October of 2015.
Okay, so it's been 3 years?
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5 years old.
Wow. I remember when you started it, and it kind of feels like longer than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been 2.5 years almost. So what kind of challenges have you faced, starting a nonprofit from scratch?
Starting a nonprofit from scratch is a daunting task.
Yeah.
Just because of the regulations around fundraising and compensation. It's you have to really gain a lot of buy-in on your idea.
Right.
And whereas in a for-profit, you're selling a product or a service, when you start a nonprofit, you're selling an idea or a cause, and you have to get a lot of people to buy in to that cause for a long time. And these people have to give a lot up for no monetary compensation to get this nonprofit to where it has some legs under it. So huge difference between buying or selling a good or service or product versus an idea, and how much sticking power there is with an idea or a cause. And it's just an interesting dynamic, right? It's humans that can touch something or just receive something physical or have see a service. It's tangible, right? And you can say this is what I can give you. Do you want to buy this again, or do you know someone else that wants to buy this? But to get someone to buy into a cause, you can't necessarily always see it or touch it or hold it in your hand or put it in your pocket. And it's an everyday, it's a constant thing to remind people of what that cause is. So really, really interesting and daunting, but super fulfilling because it's you're making a real difference.
So, I think for the everyday person, you tell people your cause, it's a no-brainer. This is something that you want to support. It's a good cause, right? But you're selling this idea to foundations or individual people. So how have you structured a story around that to convince people to support this cause?
So one of the things that Fleece Thank You does that is less traditional than your average nonprofit is we don't actually do a lot of just hard fundraising for dollars. I saw this gap between starting a for-profit with a good or service, revenue, sustainability, versus starting a nonprofit where you're asking someone for just a pure donation. And I said, well, can we position ourselves kind of right in the middle here to grab the best of both worlds? So we started producing a blanket kit, and we said to groups, if you can buy this blanket kit from us, you'll get to make this blanket kit. And then that'll also add some revenue into the organization to help make more blankets and drive blankets to hospitals. Do everything we need to do to serve 30,000 kids a year. And so really positioning ourselves right at the middle of kind of these two extremes, where we're the perfect blend of nonprofit charitable work, can take donations, but also have a product that people see value in, and they can touch it and they can make it, and now they can add a video message to it,
Right.
and it goes off into the world, and they have like that lasting connection to it, so that when that message comes back, I don't have to ask them to give again. They're asking us, hey, can we make another blanket?
Right. So it's like that constant, I guess it's kind of like a feedback loop almost. Yeah. How do you, so something I've noticed in the nonprofit world is like fundraising fatigue, constantly having to, again, like sell this idea or fundraise. But I see this another layer of fatigue particularly with Fleece and Thank You, is that you're dealing with really a heavy subject. And I can imagine you've come across a lot of stories that haven't exactly ended with a happy ending, right? So how do you personally and with your team deal with that issue?
That's a great question, man. There is a very real thing called compassion fatigue. Yeah. And so if anyone watching this works in a space, an industry, a job where there's a lot of heavy trauma, whatever it may be, it can come in many different forms, I'd encourage you to look up compassion fatigue, because it's an incredibly real thing. And it's when, your heart just gets so overburdened and so tired from putting yourself in these traumatic situations so consistently. And one of the things that the Fleece and Thank You team members go through specifically are, anyone who delivers blankets at a hospital, through a compassion fatigue training. And that is a training where you learn to compartmentalize those heavy feelings and not let them creep into those other feelings that you have throughout your day, and not take them home. And when you get into the car to drive home from the hospital, from the office, wherever it is, you've been able to separate those. It's a really hard thing, and I definitely didn't get it right for a really long time, and that was tough. But starting now to figure it out more and more. And so compassion fatigue, very real thing, and encourage anyone who works in a traumatic space to check it out and learn about it, because awareness and knowledge is power.
Absolutely. What are some things or what kind of advice would you give to people that are starting their own nonprofit or mission-driven company or organization?
So I, through my journey of building a nonprofit, building a social impact business, kind of come up with these tips or lessons along the way.
Right.
So I don't know if we can do this. I think we can.
Yeah.
In the link below, can we put that YouTube video for 10 lessons on how to build a business to solve a problem?
I can do that.
That'd be awesome. I just put Jabron on the spot, and he came through. So hopefully in the link below, somewhere under here,
The link in the sink, or I don't know what it's called.
somewhere down below here, you can click on a YouTube video of a TED style talk that I gave called "How to Build a Business to Solve a Problem."
Yeah.
And I want to preface by saying that this is my opinion, this is my experience, this is what I've learned, and these are the 10 steps that I truly believe if you follow these steps, you can successfully start a business to solve a problem in your community, in your life, in your sphere, whatever that is. But I list out these 10 steps, and for each step I give you a real story or a real person of how I learned that lesson and what that lesson meant. And it's so cool how lesson 1 comes back up again in lesson 7, and 2 you learn about again in lesson 9, and there's just this, these 10 steps that really I believe are 10 really good steps for anyone who's looking to build a business, start a problem. And to give you a little teaser on those 10 steps, the first step is you have to live the problem first. Before you do anything, you have to go and live that problem. So whatever that is, you have to go put yourself in the trenches with that. You have to go look at that problem square in the eyes and feel it and experience it. I always use the example when I'm speaking when it comes to these 10 steps of, if you have a brother or sister that lives maybe somewhere across the country, right? And they called you right now and they said, Gibran, I'm hurt. I fell. I broke my leg. I got in a car accident, whatever it is. And I need you to get here. I need you to get here as soon as you can. What would you do? You go straight to delta.com, whatever. You find the next closest flight. You wouldn't even look at the price.
Of course.
You use that credit card, book that flight, you get on the plane, you'd go, right? You'd go. And if that flight, if you got to boarding and the flight got delayed, you'd just go to the ticket counter, you'd book yourself on the next flight. Like, nothing would stop you from getting to that family member to help them, right? If this was just some acquaintance, someone you met in college or something that called and said, hey, I need you, your first call might be the local hospital. And maybe someone else you knew around there, or giving them directions of how to get there, right? Like, you'd find some other ways to help them. But if this is someone that you know and love, like, your problem is their problem. Mm-hmm. And there is nothing that's going to stop you from helping solve it. And that's why step 1 in the 10 lessons is you have to live the problem. Because somewhere along the line, you're going to hit adversity. You're going to hit obstacles. You're going to hit whoops moments. And if you aren't just fully committed and have erased all doubt that you are going to solve this problem, then it'll be very easy to say, this went wrong, or, it's got a little bit tough. Maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Maybe I don't have all the answers. Maybe I can't solve this problem. And that's a dangerous thing to think. Maybe I can't solve this problem. But the reality is that you can. And if you've just erased all doubt and you have lived this problem, then nothing is going to stop you from solving it.
I completely agree with that. Like, in my line of work in community development type work, there are so many people that come into blighted communities that are like, you need this if you want to get better or if you want to improve the neighborhood, when in reality, they don't know. You have to be there. You have to experience it yourself. So I completely agree with that. What are some things that you're doing right now in Fleece and Thank You, or things coming up in the future that you're really excited about?
We have a ton of stuff in the Fleece and Thank You vision that is just going to rock the socks off of the children's hospital atmosphere. Yeah. Now, right now, there are so many great charities that do some incredible things for kids in the hospital. Collectively, I believe that we could do even better. We could do even better for these kids. And, I see a day in the future where, kids won't ever look forward to a shot or the nausea from chemotherapy treatments. But imagine if we could get the hospital atmosphere and setting to be so cool that a kid says to their mom, I get to go to chemotherapy this week. Like, I get to go to chemo for 7 days. Mm-hmm. Because the things we've put in place in the hospital environment are that Disneyland effect, right? This magical environment where if tragically it ends for a kid in that space, man, it was the happiest place they could have possibly been in.
Right.
And Fleece and Thank You right now, we're just known for blankets. But watch out, guys, because the things that we have coming in the pipeline, in our many arms that we want to reach out to help provide hope and healing to kids in the hospital are, we believe are going to drastically change the hospital atmosphere for kids. And that's the legacy that we're working towards.
So, question I'd like to end on is, what keeps you motivated every day when you wake up in the morning? Why do you come here, go where you need to go, to accomplish your mission? And at the end of the day, what do you think about before you go to sleep?
I think there's different personalities, attitudes, different kinds of people in life. For me, there's, the kids that we serve in some form, those people feel like my people. Mm. And for whatever reason, that this population is what's on my heart. And so that urgency that right now we're not able to serve 30,000 kids with a blanket. We're not able to provide this uniquely magical hospital environment to 30,000 kids is more than enough fuel to my fire to keep me up late at night and wake me up super early in the morning. because there's a lot of kids out there that we still need to help, and we're the Fleece and Thank You team is just crushing it right now, and we're going to continue to crush it on being dedicated to providing a hope and healing environment for all these kids in the hospital who are there, by no fault of their own, and who just live a far different life than many of us can even relate to. There's many great causes out there. Those kids in the hospital, those are our people, and we're not going to stop until it is a uniquely magical atmosphere for them while they're battling what is for most people the toughest thing that you could possibly go through.
Right. For people listening and for people watching, where can they find you if they want to get a hold of you?
To learn more about Fleece and Thank You and our mission, you can go to our website, fleeceandthankyou.org, FLEECEANDTHANKYOU.org. For more details there about everything we have going on, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can send an email to info@fleeceandthankyou.org. We're always looking for more awesome people to help with volunteering as well as groups to make blankets. 30,000 is a large number. Right. So, whatever group you're a part of, we need your group, and as big as they can get, to make as many blankets as possible to help serve these kids. You can jump on to fleeceandthankyou.org, book an event, buy a blanket kit, and help us serve these warriors that are battling these hospital treatments.
Cool. Well, thank you, Nick, for being on the show. And until next time, stay tuned. Cool. Thanks.
Awesome.
That went well.
Great stuff, man.